Peace and blessings. Welcome back to the channel once again, where we talk all things health and healing from a holistic perspective. And today will be no different. Now, today we're going to talk about the importance of breath work, working on your breath. And the reason why that's so important is because we have all of these physical exercises that we do to improve the muscles for our calves, hamstrings, quadriceps, want to get that six pack, the biceps going, the triceps, etc. But we don't focus on two of the most important muscles, which is the brain and also the lungs. Okay, now I'll tell you how the brain is involved in this in just a second. But it's important to know and understand that there are various breathing exercises used to facilitate balance in the body and also healing back in the body too. Okay, and one of those exercises is deep diaphragmatic breathing or belly breathing. Okay, and the reason why I'm specifically locking in on that one is because most of the time that we're breathing shallow. Okay, and most of us are walking around throughout the day sucking our bellies in, and so when we do breathe, we don't create that space for the lungs to expand to get a full breath into the body. Okay, so it's so important that we incorporate it in such a way that we're expanding our bellies. Okay, so when you breathe in with this exercise that I'll talk about in just a moment, you want to make sure that when you breathe in, you not only open up your chest, but you allow your belly to expand as well too. And here's why that's so important from an anatomy standpoint. Okay, whenever you extend your belly, what you're allowing to happen is between the belly, okay, and also the lungs is a muscle called the diaphragm. Okay, the diaphragm is one of the primary respiratory muscles. Okay, now when you don't extend your belly, you don't flatten out your diaphragm. Now your diaphragm sits like this in between your lungs and your gut. Okay, now when you don't breathe in and allow your belly to expand, your diaphragm stays curved like this. Okay, but when you allow your belly to extend out, what happens is the diaphragm now curves this way, creates more space for the lungs to expand, gets more oxygen into the lungs, and it also gets oxygen deeper into the lung tissues as well too. Okay, so make sure you understand that when I'm telling you to do these exercises, you gotta let that belly go in this moment. Okay, we'll work on the belly another time. But it's so important that you extend your belly out during these exercises. I know that in society, we're supposed to suck it in, tuck it in, but not for this, okay? So that's one thing that's important. The other thing that's really important to understand about this is that, you know, in its majority, you know, breathing is an autonomic or automatic activity that we really don't think about. And that's important because the way that our nature and biology is set up, breathing is by far one of the most important things that we do throughout the day. I mean, we go 3 to 4 minutes without oxygen and life ceases to exist. Okay, we die. Okay, brain cells begin to die. Okay, so it's important that we know and understand that, you know, our bodies know how important breathing is, but we don't. Okay, we don't even think about it. Now, the cool thing about breathing is not only a sort of a autonomic nervous system activity, we also have voluntary control over our breathing. So that's what we're going to be doing during these exercises. We're going to hijack the system and take conscious control over our breathing, okay? And the reason why that's so important is because our breathing is also tied to, you know, whether we're in a state of anxiety or we're in a state of relaxation, okay? Because what you'll notice is whenever you're breathing shallow and rapidly, that's when you're in a hyperventilated state, which means you're either exercising, you're either stressed out, or maybe you're running from something. So whenever our breath is shallow and rapid, we're in a stressful state. Okay, it doesn't mean it doesn't matter that nothing stressful is actually happening. Okay, whether something stressful is happening or not, it will put the body in a stressful state. Okay, so it's hugely important to know and understand from that standpoint. And because we're constantly in these stressful and anxiety-like states, we're actually programming our bodies to be not only in a stressful state, but also to breathe shallow. So when we stay stressed all the time, and most of the stress is stress that we don't even recognize as stress. Some of the stress is traffic on the way to work or on the way home. Some of the stress could be something that you saw on the internet or on social media. So it's not even real stress, okay? But when we're constantly putting ourselves in these stressful states, we're teaching our bodies to breathe shallow, okay? And whenever you're breathing shallow, that means that you're not getting enough oxygen into the body. And when you're not able to get enough oxygen into the body, your body is going to be in a stressful state. But also, most importantly, you're not getting the number one nutrient that your body needs, which is oxygen. Okay? And when I say that to people, they're like, oxygen, number one nutrient? Of course, it's the number one nutrient that we need. Okay? Oxygen is on the periodic table just like magnesium, calcium, potassium, iron, etc. Okay? And here's the thing about this. We can go weeks without any of those, but if we go 2 to 3 minutes without oxygen, our life ceases to exist or starts to cease to exist. Okay, so it's so important that we understand that. And on a daily basis, on average, we're breathing somewhere around 22,000 times a day. And we don't even recognize that, and we don't even have to tell our bodies to do that. But if we program our bodies to breathe incorrectly, shallow, without extending our bellies, okay, without getting a full breath into the body, or even breathing shallow and also rapid because you're trying to overcompensate for not getting enough oxygen into the body because you're breathing shallow, okay? So it's so important that we know and understand that, this breathing exercise that I'm going to talk about in a second could be very critical for you creating peace in the body and also a ton of other benefits that I'll talk about as well too. Now, the other thing that's really important is that part of the breathing exercise is also not breathing. And as a matter of fact, part of the exercise is actually holding your breath. Now, here's why that's important. When you take an actual deep diaphragmatic breath, that means that you're fully saturating the lungs with oxygen or with air, okay? Now, the cool thing is if you hold your breath, what you're allowing that air to do is saturate the tissues and eventually saturate on a cellular level, okay? So that's why we incorporate holding your breath for a very short period during this exercise as well too. Now, the other thing that's really, really important as well too is that, the deeper you breathe, the more oxygen you get in your lungs, but also what it's doing is relaxing the body as well too. Okay, so it's hugely important that we know and understand that our breath is actually tied to whether we're in a state of anxiety or we're in a state of relaxation. Okay, so hugely important. So let's get into what are some of the many benefits of doing breathing exercises like this, and how it can benefit not only you from a standpoint of getting more oxygen in the body. So number one is that it's gonna actually help to regulate your nervous system, okay? Because your nervous system, when it's overworked or, in a hyper state, is gonna put you in a hyper state. And quite often, if you're in this hyper state for a long period of time, what you'll notice is that your body will start to go into anxiety without you even having a real life situation occurring where you need to have anxiety. This is what they call an anxiety attack, okay? Sometimes people have anxiety attacks and they can simply just be walking through the park, having a great day, and then all of a sudden their body has an anxiety attack. That means that the body has been disconnected from the mind, okay? And now the body is just working on programming, okay? And if you've been programming your body to be in a sort of a state of anxiety, to breathe shallow, to be stressed all the time with what you're watching on social media, what you're watching on television, what you're listening to with your music when you go to work out, when you've been programming your body to be in the stress state, then all of a sudden the body now becomes the master and the mind now becomes the slave. Okay, and now you have this anxiety attack that your mind doesn't even know why it's happening. Okay, so it's so important that we know and understand that by doing these breath exercises, we can reprogram ourselves and reprogram our nervous system to be back to that default state where now we only have anxiety when we need to have anxiety. So that's one huge benefit. Number two is it also helps to regulate body temperature. If you're one of those people that you've noticed that, you're one of those people when you go outside, you get hot very easily. When you're inside, you get cold very easily, or vice versa. It means that your body is not adjusting to temperature. This could also be a benefit as well too by doing these breathing exercises. It will help your body adjust to different temperatures as well too. Number three, it lowers your blood pressure. Okay, so and it makes sense, right? And we're going to talk about this in a second, but I'll go ahead and talk about it now. One of the primary reasons that it helps to lower your blood pressure is because, again, as I was talking about before, when you're doing deep diaphragmatic breaths, it means that you're moving the diaphragm, okay? And the diaphragm has this nerve going through it called the vagus nerve. And the vagus nerve is directly connected to our parasympathetic system. Our parasympathetic system tells the body to chill, okay? Tells the body to relax. Our sympathetic system tells the body to stress out, tells the body to get going, tells the adrenals to pump out adrenaline, okay? So the benefit of doing the deep diaphragmatic breaths is that you're stimulating this nerve, the vagus nerve, to tell the body to relax, okay? And when the body is stimulated to relax using the parasympathetic nervous system, it relaxes everything, okay? Including the blood vessels. And this is why it causes the blood pressure to go down, okay? It also helps to reduce stress and anxiety. So if you're noticing that you're constantly in a state of stress and anxiety, or maybe you're going through a traumatic situation, maybe it's a breakup, maybe it's a loss, maybe it's losing your job, maybe it's financial instability, no matter what it is, if you're going through a stressful state and there's anxiety in your life, using this breath work could actually be very helpful for that as well too. It also improves your mood, okay? And I mean, it makes sense. You're getting the number one nutrient that the body needs into the body. So it makes sense that you're getting more oxygen to the brain as well too, okay? And as the brain becomes more and more saturated with oxygen, guess what? There's a feedback loop from the brain that says, I like this. Let me tell this person, let me give them a dopamine effect to tell them to do this even more. So you actually feel that when you're doing this breathing exercise, you feel sort of a euphoric feeling at the end of it, okay? And so please comment after you do it for yourself, like, how do you feel after this exercise is over? You'll notice that you sort of feel like this little high or this euphoria after the exercise is over. I definitely do, okay? Another sort of benefit is that it will actually help to improve sleep. I had someone who was having trouble falling asleep every night. It wasn't that they had problems actually sleeping, they had problems falling asleep. And so what I had them do was do this box breathing right before bed. They added a little bit of meditation music in the background. And every time that they would do this exercise, repeated 4 to 5 times, they noticed that their body went into this calmer state. And all of a sudden they would start to drift off to sleep. Whereas before, they noticed that their minds were constantly running as they laid down to go to sleep. They were thinking about what they didn't do during the day and what they need to do tomorrow and what they're gonna take for lunch, or et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So doing this exercise helped them to relax and sleep better as well too. And also, it actually helps to improve digestion as well too. Because again, you're stimulating that vagus nerve. And the vagus nerve is connected to the parasympathetic system, and the parasympathetic system is connected to our digestive system as well too. Okay, so hugely important to actually do this breath work so you can get all of these benefits and even more. So without any further ado, let's talk about what is the breathing exercise that is going to help you achieve all of these benefits. And that breathing exercise is called either box breathing or 4-4-4-4 breathing. Okay, we'll just call it box breathing. But the reason why they call it Quattro 4 is because you're doing everything in 4 seconds. Okay, so step 1, or we'll call this step 0. Step 0 is that you need to sit down and sort of relax and sit up straight. Okay, sit down, body straight up and down. No slouching or curving over. And the reason why that's important is because, again, if you slouch over, now you're compressing down on your diaphragm. There's no way it will be able to relax. Okay. All right. So that's why you got to sit up straight. All right. So step 0, sit up straight, sit in a chair, sit on the floor, whatever's comfortable for you. I've even had people do this exercise while walking too. And that works too as well, because you're walking. So of course you're going to be completely vertical. Okay. So step 1, sit straight up, no slouching. Step 1. Okay. All right. After step 0, step 1 after step 0 is going to be breathe into your nose. Okay. All right. Breathe into your nose. All right. So you want to breathe into your nose for 4 seconds, which means that you're going to breathe into your nose slowly for 4 seconds. Okay. And let me go back for a second. The reason why it's so important for a lot of people to sit down before you start this exercise is because, as I mentioned before, a lot of people sort of feel euphoric and a little bit high after getting oxygen into the body, that they're not used to getting oxygen into the body this way because they're constantly breathing shallow. So for some people, it will make them a little dizzy. So I highly recommend you sit down while doing this, especially the first time you do it. Okay, so step 0, sit straight up and down, sit down, relax. Okay, step 1, again, breathe into the nose. Okay, I usually start out by pushing air out of the lungs before I breathe into my nose. So I'll push out all the air and then I'll breathe in slowly for 4 seconds. So breathe in. Hold. Don't pause. Don't release any air. Hold for 4 seconds. Breathe out for 4 seconds. Go instantly into breathing out. Hold again for 4 seconds. And that's 1 round. Okay, so we're going to do that over again. All right. So now that you got the gist of it, you want to first sort of push the air out of your lungs. Breathe in for 4 seconds. Hold instantly. Don't breathe out. Hold for 4 seconds. Breathe out for 4 seconds. Hold for 4 seconds. And that is another cycle, okay? Now, the other tip that I'll give you is whenever you're breathing out, because a lot of people will ask me, do I breathe out of my nose? Do I breathe out of my mouth? It doesn't matter, but what I will say, what helps a lot of people is breathing out of their mouth and pursing their lips together. Allows them to control the breath a little bit better so that they can do it over the span of the 4 seconds. Okay? So again, you breathe in 4 seconds, you hold for 4 seconds, you breathe out for 4 seconds, you hold for 4 seconds, and that is 1 round. You do that for 4 to 5 rounds, and then you have done your box breathing or your breath work for today. Now, I know this has been a lot, but I want you to practice this for yourself. I typically do this in the morning when I wake up. I do it in the middle of the day, and then I do it at the end of the day. That's my routine. Okay, and the cool thing about this is that you doing that 4 to 5 reps typically takes less than 7 minutes, 5 to 7 minutes, and you're out of there. Okay, because you got to remember, like, You're doing it for 4 seconds, 4 times, and that's 1 rep. That's 16 seconds. Okay, and you're doing that 4 to 5 times. So we're talking about doing something that literally could only take 5 minutes out of your day in the beginning, 5 minutes out of your day in the middle of the day, and 5 minutes out of your day at the end of the day, for a total of 15 minutes, but you get all the benefits that I mentioned before. I hope you have enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comments if you tried this before or you tried this soon after this video and how you felt afterwards. And let me know if you continue to do it, how it's working for you. Thanks for watching this video, but be sure to check the next video out that's right here. But everything I talk about is how do we take a holistic and natural approach to healing other than a man-made approach? And also, how do we prevent dis-ease in the body as well too? Because, you know, they say